And it is 9 o'clock, and I'm going to go ahead and start it. And we'll hope that a few more people join, and we'll just let them in. Good morning, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us today for OmniRide's Hispanic Council Meeting. Joe already said it, but the first thing I need to mention is that today's call is being recorded. And secondly, my name is Holly Morello, and I am the TDM Program Manager at OmniRide. TDM stands for Transportation Demand Management, which simply put is the science behind getting cars off the road. And since transportation is a form of TDM, I promote bus, rail, metro, as well as TDM measures such as carpooling, vanpooling, biking, telework, transit subsidies, and alternative work schedules to the residents and employers in Prince William County. And this morning, I'm pleased to be able to introduce you to my supervisor, Joe Stainsby. He's OmniRide's Chief Development Officer, as well as Paulo Bellita, who is a planning manager in the policy and programming section at Prince William County Government. Joe is going to give us a quick welcome, and then he's our first presenter. So he's going to be providing us with an overview of the upcoming Manassas Park MicroTransit Pilot and its implications for the rest of the OmniRide service area. And Paulo is going to discuss major projects, transit studies, and give us an update on the county's small area plans. And we should have time to take questions after each presenter. So feel free to type your questions into the chat. And Joe, I'm turning it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the Hispanic Council meeting. We've had a few of these before. These meetings have always been an excellent place to kind of get feedback from you guys and present new information and do things in new ways. Before I actually get started with any content, the very first thing is the slide that you should see in front of you. We are demoing a new live translation software called Wordly that you can access by clicking the link in the chat that I have pasted there before the meeting started. It provides live translation as any of the presenters are talking in any one of 10 languages, including Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean, those being the most used languages other than English in Prince William County. So we're always trying to provide greater access to people. There are instructions there on the screen. I would be very interested for people to use it if they need it, and then give us some feedback through Holly or myself afterwards, because it is something that a feature that we would look to bring to more of our outward facing councils, just by way of providing more access to people and making things more seamless. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Give me 1 second here. All right, so I will be presenting on the Manassas Park Route 68 MicroTransit Pilot today. And I'm very thankful to be before you guys today. The Hispanic Council is kind of a labor of love for us here. It forms one leg of the three stools, the three legs of the one stool. I did a great job with that one. Of our mobility councils. So our mobility councils are the Hispanic Council, the Employer Council, and the Vanpool Council, which by happy circumstance are all meeting this week. And so these mobility councils were put forth in our strategic plan for community engagement. And that's a large part of my job, is to make sure that we can pivot from being just a transit agency to more of a mobility agency, dealing with things like TDM, as Holly has outlined, dealing with the telecommuting, the van pooling, the carpooling, the slugging side of things, providing people with more information than just our standard fixed route transit. And what I'll be talking about today is what we think is going to be another very important component of that being microtransit. It is not something that is definitively happening. We are currently in the public review and comment period for it. This is a pilot that we would like to put out there probably in July or August of next year, depending on when the commission approves it. We've spent the last few months going through an outreach process, and we're going to spend several more months doing that. And this is just kind of a high level view about what is microtransit, how is this going to work, and how potentially is this impactful to the Hispanic Latino community in the area that it serves. And predominantly this is because the Route 68, the Manassas Park local Route 68 that we are proposing is replaced with this microtransit zone is a heavily Hispanic area. And certainly it's something that we hope can kind of goose up the levels of ridership that we have in those areas, because quite frankly, we know from looking at census tract data and just kind of local anecdotal information, there are a lot of people that could be availing themselves of our services in that area, especially right now because they're free. And largely speaking, people do not. So we will move on. So the issue, as I had mentioned, we have Manassas Park 68 local, the map on your left-hand side. This route has existed since our Western Service realignment, December 2019. It has the lowest ridership of all of our local routes. It's not uncommon to have only 2 or 3 people on a trip. There is a lack of trip generators on the way, and by that I mean, places where people like to work and play. So there's not a lot of reasons for people to ride the service where it operates. It has the shortest span of service, long headways, 90 minutes between trips. So, if you miss a bus, then it can be a pretty long, cold wait at the bus stop for the next one. There is a lot of issues with the public perception of the route, that being when you do see a Route 68 out there, it's almost certainly going to be empty. And so we want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, the elected officials in the region that we work closely with, Mayor Jeanette Rischel at Manassas Park, Vice Mayor Sebeski for the city of Manassas, Supervisor Lawson, other folks that are out in that area. They want us to come up with a different solution that could potentially serve the community better using the same amount of money, and this is where microtransit comes in. So what is microtransit? The best way to think about it really is that it's like transit blended together with Uber or Lyft, okay? It's fundamentally different than the type of transit that we regularly offer, because what we typically do is fixed route transit, right? This is fundamentally different in that it's demand response. With fixed route transit, you've got a bus that sits on a schedule and it goes round and round and round and round and it does what it does. Demand response, if there's nobody at the bus stop and there's nobody that needs a trip, the bus isn't out there. And so what that allows you to do is to spread those costs out, because you don't have a bus running in service all the time, and you can offer better frequency and you can offer a larger service area using the same resources. What if you look at the little picture that's on the screen there, you've got a Mercedes Metris van in the background, and that is not the type of vehicle that we would be using. We would be using a Ford Transit vehicle, like a Metro Access cutaway vehicle that folks are used to seeing. But it is smaller than a bus. It allows it to get further into the neighborhoods than a bus would, and it doesn't just run from bus stops. So you can use it on an app, as that person's doing in that picture. You can do it through a web interface, and you can also call in through a call center as well. So the idea is that it's as accessible as humanly possible. So you might be picking it up at a bus stop, it might be at the closest street corner, but it's going to allow you to not have to walk a huge amount of space, time and effort to get to a different bus stop. It has these ad hoc pickup locations, as it's mentioned there. We can specify the service zone, as you will see. We have a lot of variety in the different types of vehicles that we can offer. There are a lot of movers in this space right now, because it is something that a lot of transit agencies are looking at to kind of optimize those routes that are underperforming. We are looking at working with a company called Rideco, but there are other ones: Translo, Demand Trans, Via, Transdev. There's a whole bunch of alphabet soup out there for different companies that are moving in this space. And before I go any further, I do want to make it abundantly clear that OmniRide was, and will always remain the place for fixed route transit. That's what we offer, right? We are not moving away from the model of fixed route transit. We're not even looking to do that. But in instances where we feel as though we could serve the community better with a different type of service, it behooves us to be able to kind of offer that service. So that's what we will do. Microtransit, in generally speaking, offers better headways. Looking at the projections that we have for the service usage for this kind of mode, we're predicting that we could offer anywhere between 20 and 30-minute headways, as opposed to the current 90-minute headways in the area. It's much more efficient. You're using a smaller vehicle, so you don't have to have two people sitting on a 55 passenger bus or something like that. It has this improved public perception, so you're utilizing the service better, you're right sizing the service. There is also the possibility when it comes round to June for the rubber to meet the road and the commission to actually approve something, that they could offer this service as an overlay, not a replacement of the Route 68. So you can use it simply as like transit spackle, if you will. It fills in the gaps. Where there are areas of the route that are kind of too far away from the existing bus stops, they might choose to offer it in that area. So that is a possibility. We have proposed it as a replacement, but it's really up to the commission to decide how they implement that, and frankly, if they implement that. Moving on here, the idea is, so we have three Western routes. We have the 65, the 67, and the 68. Our goal with this is to bring the 68 service area into alignment with the 65 and the 67. So it's going to take you to bus stops that allow you to connect to the 65 and the 67. And so it would kind of match that span of service. And it's, as I mentioned, it's booked through an app or through a call center or through your computer on the internet. So it is as accessible as humanly possible. What you'll see there on your screen is our proposed coverage zone for the Route 68. And the blue line is the current Route 68, and the big kind of light green blob is the service area. So the idea there is that if you live in that service area, you could take this flexible service anywhere within that service area. And at the current time, the fee for that service would be $0.00, because it will match whatever the fee is on our local service. And since the pandemic, all of our local services have been free. We have that in our budget to remain free for FY23. That is, of course, subject to the approval of the board. But without wishing to get into a extensive sidebar conversation about why we think that local service should remain free, let's just say that it can be, it's a regressive thing. People potentially who take our local service spend a much higher proportion of their income, taking the local bus service than people who take our commuter service. And there's a lot of fixed costs in terms of collecting revenue on these buses. And you're oftentimes spending dollars to collect cents. And so it doesn't make sense for us to do. So we would like to be able to do that in the future, but that is dependent upon, our commission approval. So there you have the proposed coverage zone for the system. What we have here, this is very briefly on the screen here. This is an alteration that we are proposing to make in July of next year to the Route 67 to basically bridge Route 28 here, to essentially change it a little bit so that people have even more connectivity into and out of the proposed microtransit zone. So that I'll just leave that there on the screen for a second there. So the advantages, I've spoken to these a little bit, or the perceived advantages with microtransit, is that it does fill those gaps. It allows greater coverage. So you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I live a mile from a bus stop or something like that. And it can also be used as an effective complement to fixed route transit for a first mile, last mile service. And it will really bring our Western service area much more into alignment with the extremely robust service that we have on the eastern side of our service area, which tends to have better headway, so on and so forth. This is a way of us doing that and addressing it in a revenue neutral way, which is currently what we've been tasked with doing, because our budget situation does not allow us to go beyond that flat level. So this is a question of reorganizing our service over there to offer the end user a better system in our minds anyway. It improves the customer service experience. The vehicle you see on the screen there from RideSmart, that is quite similar to the vehicle that you would likely see. It would be branded as OmniRide. It's going to be an OmniRide vehicle. It's going to be operated by the same fantastic Keolis by OmniRide operators that you would see on our regular big buses. Same exact service, so you can expect the same high quality of service that you would get from them as you would get on this service. It is not meant to be, any different, any kind of lower quality or anything like that. In fact, quite the opposite. We are confident that this is going to, reduce trip times, increase customer satisfaction, and most importantly, put more bums in seats on those vehicles, because we do have to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And as with any service that we operate, if we operate it for long enough with few enough people using it, the service ultimately goes away because the commissioners don't see the value in continuing to sustain the service. So we want to have that never be the case. So in this particular scenario, we feel like this is a good service mode to propose. Before I take some questions, if there are any, then I will just say this is a proposal. We have done extensive outreach. We have held a town hall. We have also held a public hearing on this. We have solicited feedback through an open comment period that was advertised in about 6 different newspapers and websites, both in English and in Spanish. We also will have a listening session that will take place in March, where we're not going to actually formally do the presentation, but we're going to listen to feedback. We've taken a lot of feedback from people, both positive and negative. So we are going through that, compiling all of this information and giving all of these various talking points to the Board of Commissioners, who will be able to make a decision one way or the other on this service in June, so that we can bring it to conclusion at our earliest service change in FY23, which is looking like it's going to be the August 22 timeframe. So that is what we are doing. We're extremely excited about it, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Yeah, feel free to unmute and just ask, or if you'd rather, type it into the chat and I'll read it off.
Hey, this is Delegate Rome representing the city of Manassas Park. How you doing?
Good morning, Delegate.
Good, how are you?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Can you, even though this is obviously a proposal here, can you basically walk into more of some of the numbers? Number one, I'm rather interested to see how many people actually participated in the town halls, actually, how much feedback y'all actually received. And then obviously it does seem that when you have a route where a bus only arrives once every 90 minutes and it's low traveled at that switching to an on-demand service clearly makes more sense. Like, completely understand where it's going. How do we end up communicating this? Hey, you're gonna have a free ride wherever you want to go in this general coverage area. All you got to do is call whatever, blah, blah. How do we, number one, communicate that to the existing riders? Number two, how do we expand that pool? And three, do you have people who are currently riding the bus who don't have that technology, or they don't use apps or whatever it is? Do you have a way to accommodate them?
Yes. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for the questions. I will do my best to get through those. So the first thing is, excuse me, the feedback that we've had so far. So we had a official public hearing was at the Manassas town hall, city hall rather, and we had, I think, 15 people that came to that presentation, and it was roughly 2/3 to 1/3 in terms spoke against changes to the Route 68 versus for it. We also were delivered a petition at that, which contain names of folks who were against changes to the Route 68. There seemed to be a perception that either we were just getting rid of the Route 68 and folks would have nothing, or that we were looking to do microtransit as a gateway to doing nothing, which could not be further from the truth. So what we have now done is our customer service agents and myself to some degree have been going through that petition, calling folks on the petition, confirming that they knew what they were signing and finding out exactly what their objections were. We also had a town hall at the Manassas Park Community Center. We also had literature on the Route 68, 67, and 65, asking people to provide their comments either via phone or via email during our public comment period. So all of that stuff has happened when we solicited that feedback also through Potomac Local, El Tiempo Latino, and a few other places as well. So we feel as though we have done a very robust amount of outreach, and in the new year, we're actually going to be doing a rider survey for folks on the Route 68. We'll be doing a listening session at what looks like it's going to be the Manassas Park City Hall. I was actually just setting that up this morning. And then we're also going to be doing just riding on the bus, listening to the folks that are on the bus. I think at this point, one advantage, I suppose, of there being a relatively few amount of people that actually use the bus, typically less than 5 people per trip, is that I'm 90% certain that we have spoken in person to probably almost 100% of the people that use that bus, because there just aren't a lot of them that actually physically use that. And some of them, their concerns are relatively easily allayed by the fact, oh, I don't have access to a smartphone or something like that, as you mentioned before. That is precisely why. You have the ability to book it through a smartphone. You have the ability to use a web browser, or you have the ability to call our call center just as you would do for anything else to speak to one of our fantastic customer service agents. So there really is no problem with access to the service from a technological perspective. Certainly, we had some folks who are like, yeah, I don't foresee myself using an app to do this. I wouldn't use an Uber or a Lyft. I'm not doing that, but they can call it and use the call center. So we have, just comparing this to other changes that we have made in the past, this has so far been the gold standard for public outreach to kind of solicit that feedback and really give the commissioners, the meat on the bones that they need to be able to make that decision in June. And that will only be complemented by the rider survey, by the listening sessions, and more ride-ons on the bus over the coming 60 to 90 days. So that's the plan that we have.
Well, I do have a brief follow-up to that then.
Sure.
Are you going to have a workforce issue on an on-demand, or basically on an on-demand system versus, right now you have regular working hours because people will know what the schedule is going to be. They understand when they're driving, everything like that. Are you going to have more peaks and valleys in terms of when drivers or operators are going to be available?
I don't anticipate that would be the case. First things first, we're using the same exact operators. It would be you would potentially have one day where you're driving a 50-foot bus and the other day where you're operating the microtransit service. So it's the same drivers. And the span of service will be the same as a fixed route. So you would simply be out there, you would be staged, and then you would be used as need be. So you're going to be getting paid for all of that time. So if you're a driver, you're not going to be looking at those blocks of time with the microtransit and thinking to yourself, okay, I'm not going to put my hand in the air for that because I'm only going to potentially get an hour's worth. You don't only pay when you're going into revenue service. So that shouldn't be a concern. I will say, it would be ridiculous to not mention this when you're talking about labor shortages. Generally, as an industry, we are experiencing labor pressures when it comes to operators, mostly pandemic-related issues that are industry-wide. But I do not foresee that we would experience any additional problems because of the microtransit mode. Any other questions?
I have a question. My name is Alex Cabrera.
Good morning.
Are you guys considering how to do training to use the app? I know that in the Hispanic community, we don't are as knowledgeable as using the cell phones and apps. So I was wondering,
yes,
what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's an excellent question, Alex. So yes, is the short answer. We will produce literature, both in English and Spanish, that walks people through the app. But more importantly than that, we do already have a robust travel training program for folks to access our service. We do have bilingual customer service associates. And so I think that this will just become another facet of our travel training program that folks can avail themselves of, where we will walk them through the process of, if they want to use the app, installing it, how they utilize the app, so on and so forth. But if they don't want to get that familiarity, they don't have to. They can simply just call the customer service line that already exists and speak to one of our customer service agents. So we are trying to make it as accessible as possible. But yes, the training will take place as part of our travel training program, which already exists.
Thank you. I also have a comment. Are you guys considering having the vehicles, electric vehicles, to improve our?
Yeah, that's another great question, Alex. And it's funny actually, because we actually just kicked off our zero emission and electric vehicle study yesterday. So this is a space that a lot of folks are looking at moving into. Just for the confines of this conversation, We are not looking at electric vehicles for the provision of the microtransit service at this time. There are simply not electric vehicles that have the capacity that we would need with the charging infrastructure that we have to be able to offer this service in the mid-2023. We are very much looking at having electric buses or CNG or diesel electric buses, and that would also follow for some of the smaller vehicles, but not at the point of inflection for this service. If you live in the area of Manassas Park, you will no doubt have seen our OmniRide branded paratransit vehicles over there. And the vehicles that we will be using on the service are identical to those vehicles, okay? So they are kind of large cutaway Ford Transit vehicles that they are gasoline powered, and they are only available as that. So I would say not at the start of service, but as time goes by, I think the industry is pretty aware that this is where we are going, the lower emission, the zero emission. And so certainly as time goes by and the infrastructure and the range of those vehicles, it becomes more sufficient, then we would certainly consider that. And that's going to be that much easier now that we do have a Western maintenance facility over there on Doan Drive in Manassas that allows us to not have to go all the way back over to Woodbridge to potentially charge these things. So we're laying the groundwork, but not at the inception of service. But great questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much for your participation. We're going to turn things over to presenter number 2, Paulo Bellita.
All right, thank you, Holly. Give me a second here while I share my screen. All right. Thanks again, Holly, and good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Paulo Bellita, Planning Manager with Prince William County Department of Transportation. Very excited to be here today to talk about just some of our projects. This is a snapshot of our PowerPoint that we give to our board. We have a 70 slide deck PowerPoint that we typically present to the board on a quarterly basis, but we narrowed it down just to some of the major projects to give an example of some of the major improvements that we have in the county. I'll also talk about some transit improvements and small area plans. And as you see some of the different projects that I'll go over, I do want to make a note that we don't just implement roadway improvements. We also have bike ped improvements as well as improvements that really support transit. Just a quick background on transportation in Prince William County. Our goal and the goals of our board is to really ease the flow of traffic and improve travel within Prince William County, both for residents and visitors. And in order for us to really meet these goals, we have to work with a variety of partners, whether it's working with our board or local elected officials, or working with VDOT, who maintains roadways in Prince William County. But most importantly, we work closely with OmniRide, PRTC, as well as VRE to really meet these goals. And then that's why we're here today. We have a very close working relationship with OmniRide. I'd mentioned some of the different improvements. In addition to major roadways or intersections and interchanges, we also have sidewalks and trail improvements. We look at improving commuter parking. We also have our very first commuter parking garage here in the county, which I'll talk about a little bit later. We have various transit improvements or transit related improvements that support transit, as well as traffic safety related improvements. Going into just like I said, a snapshot of some of the major projects in the county. The first of which is the intersection improvements at Prince William Parkway and University Boulevard. This is that innovation. We're very excited about this project. Instead of your full interchange project, we're able to identify an improvement that has a small footprint. That's what we call a quadrant roadway intersection. Project will begin construction early next year with completion in late 2023. A major project we have that's nearing completion is the Route 28 Phase 3 widening from Linton Hall Road to Pennsylvania Avenue. If you go out there right now, the roadway section of the project is complete. We're wrapping up improvements related to the trail. The great thing about this project is it improves access to the VRE Broad Run Station as well as the Manassas Airport. We'll be wrapping up the project by summer of next year. Devlin Road widening. This is the widening of Devlin Road from 2 to 4 lanes between University Boulevard and Wellington Road. It's a federal project currently going through design. The project itself will be completed in early 2025. project that's located not too far from Devlin Road is the University Boulevard Extension Project. University Boulevard traverses a majority of the county. This is one of the last segments of University Boulevard as we have it in our comp plan. So we're very excited to complete this project. Construction will begin in early 22 with completion in late 2023. Another project we're very excited about is the Boulevard Road Route 234 interchange. Another innovative interchange is what we call a diverging diamond interchange. You can see the aerial there that construction is underway. And if you're out there at Route 234, just south of 66, you can see all the work that we're doing out there. So we're very excited. It's what we call a design build project. And this project will be completed by the end of next year. A project that supports that interchange is the widening of Boulevard Road from 2 to 4 lanes from Doane Drive to Ashton Avenue. Project is also underway under construction and completion is targeted for early 2023. I do want to make a note that the project also terminates at Doane Drive, which is the location of PRTC's new Western maintenance facility. So we're excited to improve access to that OmniRide location. Switching over to the east end of the county, we have the Yapsico Mills Road widening from 2 to 4 lanes between Route 1 and Dale Boulevard. This is adjacent to Freedom High School and the Northern Virginia College campus. This is a federal project that's also underway. We're going to begin construction early next year with completion in late 2023. Going to the Old Bridge corridor, we have the Old Bridge Road, Aquacon Road intersection improvements project. If you're familiar with this intersection, it's a sharp curve. So the project will realign the roadway, improve safety, as well as look at intersection improvements. Project will begin construction in early 2024 and will be completed in early 2026. Another major interchange we have at the Route 234 corridor is the Brentsville Road at Prince William Parkway interchange. Another innovative design you can see there on the screen with various innovative improvements within the project itself. We actually just had our public hearing last week. The project is underway. We're going to begin construction early next year with completion targeted for early 2024. Switching back again to the east end, Summit School Road and Telegraph Road extension project. This extends Summit School Road to tie into Telegraph Road. The exciting thing about this project is it's located right next to the Horner Road commuter lot, which is, as you guys know, the largest commuter lot in the state of Virginia. And we hope to improve access to that commuter lot to really support transit and ride sharing here in Prince William County. The project will be completed in late 2023. I'd mentioned the county's first structured commuter garage project. We're very excited about this project. This is going to be a 1,400 space garage project. It's located at Potomac Town Center, also a design build project. We plan to begin construction in early 2022 with completion in early 2024. And we've been working very closely with OmniRide with this project as well. This is going to be a future transit hub for OmniRide. So as we complete the project, we continue to coordinate with OmniRide on the different elements incorporated into the project. Along the Route 1 corridor, you've seen some of the work that's going out there. This is a Route 1 widening from Featherstone Road to Mary's Way. This is just south of the recently widened portion of Route 1 that VDOT completed. So just bear with us. We're nearing completion. We anticipate completion to be completed late next year. I know it's far away, but the project itself has been ongoing for years. So we are getting near completion for this project. The Route 28 bypass project, one of the county's larger projects. This project is under design. It's going to look at creating a new parallel roadway to existing 28. And I do want to take a couple minutes and talk about our outreach for the project. It's a very large project with a lot of potential impacts, and we're very aware of the large Hispanic population in this Yorkshire area of Prince William County. And one of the things we're doing is making sure we're translating all materials. Anytime we've done public information meetings for this project, we've done with translation services. All our materials have also been translated into Spanish. So we're very aware, making sure that our Hispanic population is aware of the different impacts the project may have, or at least just knowing more about the project, because there's a lot of questions. So I just want to use this project as an example of how we want to make sure we reach out to our community. A couple smaller studies we wanted to share, our transit-related studies. We have a study to look at shuttle services at Innovation here at the Innovation Activity Center, looking at ways to connect innovation to either the very broad run station or the city of Manassas. This study is still ongoing, which we should complete by summer of next year. Another transit study we actually recently completed is the peak hour express bus study, looking at improvements along the Dale Boulevard corridor. We worked with the study team on seeing how we can improve transit along the corridor, where we looked at either a dedicated bus lane or a part-time HOV and bus lanes. So this study has been completed. We'll be working with PRTC and Amira moving forward to see how we can implement some of these improvements that's been recommended by the study. Approved SMARIA plans. I just want to take a few minutes and go over some of the recently approved SMARIA plans. Our SMARIA plans are really plans that direct growth at key locations in the county that are part of our comprehensive plan, but do provide a greater emphasis on detailed planning at select locations in the county. We have 6 approved SMARIA plans, which I'll highlight here. We have the Dale City SMARIA plan, which traverses along the Dale Boulevard and Miniville corridor. Each plan itself has different elements. They have mobility chapters, they have a land use component, and we also work with PRTC as we finalize these plans. For example, in Dale City, you can see all the different bus stops that's been identified in the SMARIA plan. We have the Innovation Park SMARIA plan, which traverses Route 234 Prince William Parkway and University Boulevard. Here's a snapshot of the proposed mobility network that looks at a new set of roadway network within the plan itself that supports a higher density. We have the North Woodbridge SMARIA plan. This is the first approved SMARIA plan, which is split into 3 locations: Belmont Bay, Town Center, and Marumsco. North Woodbridge is one of the most multimodal areas of the county. So we work closely with our planning office. We have the very broad run station, as well as several commuter lots in the SMARIA plan itself. We also have the landing at Prince William. This is adjacent to Summit School Road and Prince William Parkway, as well as Canyon Road. This SMARIA plan includes the Horner Road commuter lot, and took some screenshots. You can see the proposed roadway network within the SMARIA plan. We have the Independent Hill SMARIA plan, which was recently approved. It's along the Route 234 Dumfries Road corridor. Here's some snapshot. You can see the proposed roadway network. And the last SMARIA plan we have, most recently approved, is the Triangle SMARIA plan, located south of the town of Dumfries and just adjacent to the Marine Corps base entrance off Joplin Road. You can see our proposed roadway network and some proposed bus stops along that location. So you can visit our website. We have an interactive map that shows all the projects we have. I wish we had the time to talk about it, but please visit our website. You can contact me for any questions. I guess with that, I will open it to questions.
Can I, Paulo, do you mind if I just mention something?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Sorry, Rick Canizales, Director of Prince William County. Paulo did a great job presenting all this, but I do just want to emphasize what he said at the beginning, that as we are growing as an organization, we are doing less or doing just as much road work, and we do a lot of road work because the county needs it. But with this road work comes a lot of sidewalks, trails. We also have independent sidewalk projects, independent trail projects that help out transit. With our North Woodbridge, with all our small area plans that he talked about, we are emphasizing multimodalism through those plans. We are reducing our level of service in certain one of those plans through the roads to make sure that our multimodal system works properly in those areas, and we're able to connect to transit, get people to transit, make it walkable from one side of Route 1 to the other through pedestrian bridges. So we're trying to get very innovative here in the way we think compared to what we have been thinking in the past as just a basic suburban, a basic suburban jurisdiction. Now, as we're growing here in the East End and in some areas in the middle and some areas out in Manassas area, we are becoming very urban in nature. So we need to start kind of changing our thought pattern on it. And small area plans are the beginning of that. And our new multimodal mobility plan that we're going to have is the next step to it. So with that, thanks, Paul. You did a great job. I just wanted to make sure that we emphasize the point that we are in all those projects that you mentioned, completing pedestrian and bicycle facilities and making our plans multimodal. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Yes, if you visit our website with our interactive map, you'll see all the multimodal improvements we have in addition to just the roadway improvements. So we really do look at all modes of transportation, and key to that is really working closely with OmniRide as well as VRE.
I have a question. My name is Alex Cabrera. On the area of Prince William County, the 95 corridor, is there any way to extend that? It's always with the heavy traffic.
The 95 corridor itself, you're correct, very congested. The county is not, we don't have the ability to work on the interstate. That falls to the responsibility of VDOT. But what we are doing is improving the Route 1 corridor where we can, whether it's widening of roadways or looking at transit improvements as it runs parallel to 95.
The other thing we do is we promote VDOT in the projects. We helped VDOT come up with the idea of doing that extra lane between the exit of Old Bridge Road to the entrance of the Parkway on 95. We also helped them with the concept plan on the other side of that. We talked to them about doing additional ramps on the express lane, on the express lanes. We're working with them on the Opitz Road express lane ramps. And as they expand the express lanes and do that, I think that you'll see something opening up more on 95. But Paulo's right. That is a state responsibility, but we try to promote, go for grants and ask the state to help us. Another is looking at interchanges on 95. The state just received some funding to do some work at 95 and 123 on that interchange, and that'll hopefully help some of the flow through that area in conjunction with the other project I mentioned.
Thank you. Now that we have the approved expansion on the infrastructure, is there a way that you guys can promote to extend the metro to Manassas?
I would say to you, sir, that the metro to Manassas is going to be more of a challenge than metro down the Route 1 corridor. Right now, VDOT, DRPT, Prince William County, Fairfax County, we're all actively looking at the Quantico or Springfield to Quantico study that looks at expansion of the yellow line and the blue lines through the 95 and Route 1 corridors. But that is like the metro extension priority the county has at this point. We do identify the orange line extension in our comprehensive plan through our transits alternatives map, but it's not something that Metro has taken on to, or the state has taken on to look at the feasibility of yet. So I think we're a ways out on that still.
Any follow-up questions for Paulo? Or Joe, for that matter, if you've thought of any in the meantime? Here I've got a question, Paulo, I think this one's for you. In Dumfries, there has been ongoing pipe installation specifically on Route 1 and 234. However, it is continuing north on Route 1. Could you let us know what is the rationale for the installation of the piping and how long in time will it continue?
I might have to get clarification. Is this right section of Route 1 just north of 234? Kevin, we don't have any active projects at that location at this time. We do have a project upcoming that's going to widen Route 1 in the town of Dumfries, but I'd have to double check and I can get back to OmniRide on the question whether could be a standalone utility improvements that our service authority is doing, but we don't have an active transportation project north of Route 234 and Route 1.
And I guess I'll take the time now to say that all the materials from today's calls will be on the council's page on the OmniRide website. A recording of today's calls and or call and any other materials you'll be able to find out there. We definitely have time for a few more questions if anybody has anything. And it doesn't sound like we do. So let me just say that we are always open to ideas for future topics for council meetings, and you can send those to me. My information will be out on our website as well, but I'll just go ahead and say it now, hmorello@omniride.com. And future ideas for council meetings, as well as feedback from this meeting is always welcome. feel free to send that my way. And with that, it looks like I'm giving people 16 whole minutes back into their morning. So that's got to be a good thing. Make
Holly,
use of
really-
it. You will. Oh, yes.
Really quickly, you had a question from the previous discussion from Karen Mills. She was
Oh, I'm
asking
sorry.
how you're going to reach the senior and disabled population who don't navigate through the app. Now, I do think Joseph already answered that a little bit by doing the call in, but I just noticed it, so I wanted to reach out.
Yeah.
Thank
You're
you.
correct. This is Karen. You're correct. He did answer it. So thank you, Joe.
All right. Yeah, no problem, Karen. Yeah, I mean, we've made, just to really draw it together, we really are aware that this for some folks would be quite intimidating, right? And some of the feedback that we have heard from people is everything from I don't have a cell phone, I don't use a cell phone, to I really only like using a service which comes at a defined time. I go to the bus stop, I get on it at that time. I don't want to reach out to something because in me, as far as I'm concerned, that's not something that an adult would do. That's something that a child would do. They ask for permission. And so there is an element of changing perceptions a little bit here, but in terms of, so we work on that with the outreach that we have, and then we're really going to try and give folks the tools through travel training and saying, if you don't want to use the app, don't use the app. You don't have to use the app. But this is just a good faith effort to try and meet people where they are, and then hopefully, reinvigorate this service to something that doesn't just keep the ridership that it already has, but grows it far beyond. And then from that, the only way that we're really going to build the service on the western side with these better headways and this, that, and the other is by the ridership improving on what we have. That's how we have to leverage and improve that. So this is our attempt to do that. But thank you, Karen.
All right, one more opportunity before we say goodbye. If anyone has a question, now's the time. All right. Thank you all so much and happy holidays. And we'll be reaching out to you in the new year. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.